Hello there, it's Carrie Rhodes here. Welcome to another card making video here on my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be sharing how to make some faux tie-dye backgrounds for your cards. I made some cards for Trinity Stamps when their new release came out in April, and I wanted to share with you how I used this Superstar stencil set to create some faux tie-dye. These set of stencils layer together. There are etched stars on each of them, so when you stencil with one, you can take the next one, layer it over the top, and line up the stars that you already stenciled with the etchings, and then you can do different colors. There's stencil A and stencil B. I like to keep that in the lower right hand corner or left hand corner when I'm stenciling so that I can easily line them up the next time. So I have a piece of white cardstock that is 5.5 by 5.5. I'm just going to tape that to the back of the first stencil. I'm bringing in Distress Oxide ink Kitsch Flamingo. I want to show you first how these stencils work. So I'm going to do some traditional stenciling using Distress Oxide ink. So this has 2 rings of stars, and I'm just going to go around and fill all of that in so you can see what the first layer looks like. You'll have a total of 5 rings of stars once you complete this. And these stencils, being round, are perfect to create this faux tie-dye look. So now I'm just lining up the stars that are already stenciled with the etched stars on this stencil B. And then I'll bring in Salty Ocean and go ahead and stencil right over that. And I still worry when I'm doing this that I'm going to get blue ink on my pink stars, because in the olden days we just had one stencil, and if you wanted to switch colors you had to mask it, you had to be careful, but you don't have to do that anymore with all the fancy new stencils out. I just love that. So the etching on there is such a brilliant idea. So now I have that done and my stencil is all inky, which is the key to today's backgrounds, but that's what it looks like all stenciled up. I think it is very cute. Such a great set. So now let's do something with all the ink on the stencil. I'm going to spritz it with water and bring in an A2 size card front panel and lay that right on top of the stencil to pick up that ink and not waste it. I'm going to get a really subtle background. It's tie-dye-ish, and it would be really good if you wanted something subtle or something to layer on top of. So let's try the blue here and do the same exact thing. This is a little bit darker of a color and a lot more ink on the stencil, I feel, so I think we're going to get something a little bit more vibrant when we do this one. It looks very much like a watercolored background, not quite tie-dye. So now I thought, let's go even more vibrant. So I'm going to take my Distress Oxide ink pad and smoosh it right on top of the stencil. Now I'm not getting the 2-for-1 deal where I have a stenciled background and a watercolored background, but I wanted to see how this would work. So I smooshed it all over, spritzed it with water, and then I'm laying my cardstock panel down on top of that and pressing it down to pick up that ink. And then we're going to get something that is definitely more vibrant than the first one, a little bit more tie-dye looking and super cool. So we're going to do the same exact thing with the blue. Try it, see how it looks. I love playing at making my own backgrounds, and I always feel like even if it's not perfect, you can add to it, you can die cut it, you could stencil over the top. So there's lots of things you can do if you don't exactly love a background to make it cool. So that is getting there. That's really starting to head towards something I like. So now I am picking up this extra ink because I don't want to waste any, just creating like an ink smooshed type background, and I'll use that for something later. All right, so let's try something different. I'm doing the same thing, adding my 5.5-inch square panel to the back of the stencil, taping it in place. This time I'm going to put it in a box and spray it with Distress Oxide sprays. Now this is the exact way I made the backgrounds in the cards I made for Trinity that I showed you at the front of the video by spraying my stencil. So I am getting a background, but I'm also going to pick up all that extra ink. There's so much more ink left over on top of that stencil when you spray it, and you can see super cool background. It's those white flecky areas that really make it look tie-dye to me, along with this circular pattern of the stencil. So I'm going to carefully remove that stencil so I don't accidentally get any ink on it, and there's still more ink on top of this stencil. So I'm going to do a second pull, so to speak, off of this stencil, first spritzing it with water, and then I'll come in with my panel and pick that up. I'm using A2 size paper just because it's easier. I can get 4 out of a sheet of paper. I really liked how that one turned out. So now I'm going to come back to my sprayed stenciled background, line up the stars that are etched with my stencil B, and then I actually think that one's A. It doesn't matter which order you use the stencils in because they both have the etching. So you can do A or B, it doesn't matter. So I'll spray that one. I'm using Worn lipstick. That's just the color of pink that I happen to have in the Oxide sprays. And then I'm going to press that down. Now I sprayed the stencils about 6 times this first go around. And I feel like there's a lot of concentration, a lot of solid areas of ink. Even though I really like that background, and I'm going to do something with it later, I felt like I needed a little bit less spray. So we're going to experiment with that too and see what we can get, but not before we pick up the excess ink on this one. Now I'm just showing you everything that I make because there are times when I'm going to come back and add to this. And even here, I'm going to pick up that extra ink right off the stencil like I did on the other end with the blue. And here, let's compare what the spray versus pad backgrounds look like. They are all very cool. Definitely backgrounds I would use or add to and use, and all with somewhat of a tie-dye look, the ones that are pulled from the stencil themselves. All right, so there's my 2 stenciled backgrounds, and that is just the inspiration for getting started. So this time I'm going to spray the stencil 3 times and then pick up my second background. I love that it's a reverse image, that the stars are white, and that is so cool. And another thing that I like about doing this and what makes me not be able to stop making them is that every time you do it, you get something that looks different. And so it's that little element of surprise that I love. So this time when I spray it and pick up the last little bits of ink, I'm using that lighter print that I did from the last time. And those layered together, does that not make you so happy? I think it's gorgeous. So let's do that again with pink. We're going to spray it only 3 times this time and then see what we get. So we're going to lay this down, pick up the excess spray from the stencil. There's so much goodness there. You don't really want to waste it. And then I can carefully remove my stencil and I'll have another stenciled background that I can use. And you can see it's a lot more splattery looking. So now I'm wetting the pink stencil and picking it up with one of my lighter blue pulls from the last time. And I just love these layered together. They're so very cool. Now I still have a ton of ink on there, so I decided I would go ahead and make an entirely pink background and pick up all that extra ink. And this technique right here is how I made one of the other cards I made as a sample for Trinity for the new release in April, stamping right over the top of that pink background. So now I have this background that I had tried to pick up extra ink. I thought, why not stencil right on that? So I'm going to do that, add to it in the meantime, picking up more. And this time I'm spraying the paper, or spraying the stencil rather, 4 times. And I think 4 times is actually the sweet spot. That's the magic number for me. Spraying my stencil 4 times with the Distress Oxide spray gave me the right ratio of pink solid areas to white splotchy areas. Okay, so now I'm going to line that stencil up again with what I already sprayed. This was a little bit trickier because I had a lot going on in the background besides just the stars, but I was able to line it up and then spray it with the blue, and I really love having something going on the paper and then stenciling on it. That was really fun. So here's my background using 4 sprays with the blue. Love how that one turned out. That's the one I end up using on my card today. So there you can see how cool that is. And yeah, still more ink on the stencil. I'm using an already pink piece of paper to pick that up and make another cool double print, 2-toned. Yeah, it's fabulous. I'm loving it. All right, so here's the ones that are my favorites. I'm going to show you just the result that I think feels like the most tie-dye. I don't know, all of the blue ones I really was in love with, but here's the ones that I really love. And then I did stencil over the top of this really saturated pink one, the one that I had done with 6 sprays. I did the blue stencil over the top, and I've got all 3 of the colors on there, and they would be really fun for like some 4th of July cards. All right, so now I wanted to show you the original samples that I made and how I was able to easily replicate that today with my Distress Oxide sprays. But really use whatever stamp pad you have and just have fun and play with it, or whatever sprays you have. And there's the that 3rd card was done with the Circus Bear stamp set with the original stenciling. So I'm going to turn one of these into a card very similar to the samples that I had made. I, on the original cards, had used the hippo and the pig from this Hometown Parade set, and there's a little image or sentiment in there that says, "Welcome, little one." So I'd made baby cards, but today I wanted to make a birthday card because if you didn't already know, Trinity Stamps is turning 3 years old, so we're all helping celebrate this fun time making birthday cards. So I thought I would have this cute little duck banging on his drum and probably quacking out happy birthday. I wanted the focal point of this card, the stamped image and sentiments, to be somewhat small because I really wanted that background to shine and be the star of the card, so to speak. So I colored him up with some Copic markers, and then I'm going to die cut him out with the coordinating die. And he's just cute. He's really cute. I'm going to die cut with the etched circles a vellum piece that I can stick my little duck to. On the original cards, I popped up my critters with foam squares. I don't know, I wasn't feeling that on this card, so I didn't, but I really liked the look. So I'll just glue that into the center of the card so you can really see that whole background there. And then I'll stamp some of the music notes from that same stamp set because he's making music, and then stamp happy birthday right below it. I'm going to trim that down just a little bit so it's 4 inches by 5 1/4, and then I can mount that onto an A2 sized note card and have a quick and easy, well, I guess it wasn't quick. I made like 20 backgrounds today. But it was fun. And then once I have all those backgrounds, it is quick and easy to grab one and make a stunning card very quickly. I thank you guys so much for stopping by. I always love sharing my creations with you. I hope that maybe you'll watch this and feel inspired to try something new and get a little bit inky. I have all the supplies I used listed and linked for you below, so you can check that out if you're interested. And I will be back again very soon with a new video. So if you're new here, feel free to subscribe. I have new videos all the time, and I will see you all again on the next one. Happy stamping! Bye!